there's less room for creativity, I would say. So, I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, I think that the department went where it had to go inevitably in any case. Hopefully my contributions got it there faster than it would have otherwise.
Okay.
I mean, there were a couple of other things. I mean, just one to mention because it was so outlandish. We were taking on mandates for fees, but where success was defined as signing a heads of agreement, not closing a deal, which I thought was astonishing. It created all kinds of problems in itself when the deals didn't close, as happened quite prominently in several cases. So, I mean, that was something else that needed to change.
So, how was the department viewed inside IFC, by IFC management, even by the World Bank at that time? Was it pretty much standalone from the World Bank at that point?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, from within IFC, throughout the time that I worked, the organization loved it up here. They loved the PR that we were doing this. In the gut, it didn't fit. Why? First of all, IFC at that time was accustomed to being approached and asked to do things. So you would hear that IFC is the investor of last resort, and they wanted to be the advisor now of last resort. But if you're doing an advisory business and you're doing it to make money, and your costs are actually higher than the other people who are going to go and do it, you're not exactly going. Everything you're going to do that's going to make money is going to be of interest, perhaps quite intense interest, to alternative sources of advice. So inevitably, we were going to come up against criticism from the people who would compete with us for those things, and this was profoundly uncomfortable to IFC. The other factor about this business is, they say about insurance, it's a product that's sold, not bought. The same is true for advice. When you're going as the 33-year-old version of Javier or Doug to call on somebody several decades your senior, you're not carrying. They know you're not the most senior person by far in the organization. Generally speaking, and it was my prior experience of Wall Street, these types of clients expect somebody very senior from the organization, maybe even the CEO, to ask for the business.
Right.
The idea of getting our CEO or a VP to go call on a prospect and ask for the business was a complete taboo. Right. So that was a struggle, and so there was this ongoing tension.
That was very
as a result.
Yeah, very interesting. Although I've understood that the EVP at the time, Sir William Ryrie, was actually quite supportive of this business. I mean, he himself had some sort of famous sort of background in terms of sort of maybe even giving some ideas to Margaret Thatcher about privatization and sort of moving in that direction in Europe, right? So he understood what we were doing. I mean, he knew about the concept of.
Well, first of all, again, it's one thing to understand it up here. It's another thing to understand it down here. Second thing is Ryrie was there for only about a year more from the time that I joined. And then when an EVP kind of goes into their final year, their attention is maybe drifting in different areas. And certainly I don't know of Ryrie giving much attention to the business at that point, other than the PR mention. He was succeeded then by Yannick Lindbeck, who showed very little interest in the business, at least on a regular basis or one-on-one or engagement.
So I think what I'm hearing from you also, I think we would agree that there's something unique about this C3P family, right? This C3P, almost like a cult, right? That is there, very focused on doing these projects that are really our 24/7 dedication, because it's not a 9-to-5 job, and requires a lot of self-motivation and obviously talent and coming up to speed on sectors that. Because I would add to your point, not only are you going as a 33-year-old to sell something, but you may not even know this sector. You might have only been reading up on it, like the previous 2 weeks, because you don't have a sector expert with you, and you have to become that guru. And actually, you do, because when you're in a project for 2 or 3 years, you actually become, quite knowledgeable of a sector. And if you do 2 or 3 back together, then you become a sector expert. So I think the department does a lot.